morals. When you're dealing with people that have no conscience, because their conscience have been seared with a hot iron, it can become frustrating. But even during the times of frustration, we ought to never, never, ever, ever let it get to a point where it steals our praise and steals our joy. Because the joy of the Abba, it is our strength. It is our strength. And we do appreciate it. We appreciate it for every opportunity to Baruch his name. And so at this time, we're going to Baruch. Do the Baruch of the Torah. Repeat with me, Baruch Yahuwah.
Baruch Yahuwah.
The Baruch one.
The Baruch one.
Baruch is Yahuwah.
Baruch is Yahuwah.
The Baruch one.
The Baruch one.
For all eternity.
For all eternity.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Our supreme one.
Our supreme.
King of the universe.
King of the universe.
Who selected us from all the peoples.
Who selected us from all the people.
And gave us his Torah.
And gave us his Torah.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Giver of the Torah.
Giver of the Torah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Our supreme one.
Our supreme.
King of the universe.
King of the universe.
Who gave us the Torah of truth.
Who gave us the Torah of truth.
And implanted eternal life within us.
And implanted eternal life within us.
Baruch atah.
Baruch atah.
Yahuwah.
Yahuwah.
Giver of the Torah.
Giver of the Torah.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Now we will have the reading of the Ten Commandments done by none other than my third oldest Ben, Deshaun, as he comes to read for us. Deuteronomy chapter 5. Ten Commandments. Come on, put your hands together as he comes.
Deuteronomy chapter 5, verses 6 to 20. I am Yahuwah your power, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of bondage. You have no other mighty ones against my face. You do not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of which is in the Shemev above, or which is in the Eretz beneath, or which is in the waters underneath the earth. You do not bow down to them, nor serve them, for I, Yahuwah, your power, am a jealous power, visiting the crookedness of the office upon the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing a high commitment to thousands to those who ahab me and guard my commands. You do not bring the name of Yahuwah, your power, to naught, for Yahuwah does not leave him unpunished who brings his name to naught. Guard the Sabbath day and set it apart, as Yahuwah your power commanded you. 6 days you labor and shall do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah your power. You do not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your ox, nor your ass, nor any of your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates, so that your male servant and your female servant rest as you do. You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Mitzrayim, and that Yahuwah your power brought you out from there by a strong hand and by an outstretched arm. Therefore, Yahuwah your power commanded you to perform the Sabbath day. Respect your Abba and your Ima, as Yahuwah your power has commanded you, so that your days are prolonged, and so that it is well with you on the soul which Yahuwah your power has given you. You do not murder, you do not commit adultery, you do not steal, you do not bear false witness against your neighbor. You do not covet your neighbor's Isha, nor do you desire your neighbor's house, his field, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, his ox or his ass, or whatsoever belongs to your neighbor. These words you will spoke to all your assembly in the mountain from the midst of the fire, of the cloud and of the thick darkness with a loud voice. And he added no more, and he wrote them on two tablets of stone, and gave them to me. And it is so.
And it is so. And he added no more. Meaning that what he had given unto us as a people sufficed. And in that he's given unto us to live by. Deuteronomy chapter 6 verses 1 through 18. And it reads, these are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments which Yahuwah your power commanded to teach you, that you might do them in the land where you're going to enter and possess it, that you might fear Yahuwah your power to keep all his statutes and his commandments which I command you, you and your son and your grandson, all the yamim of your life, and that your yamim may be prolonged. Hear therefore, O Yasharal, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily as Yahuwah of Abba, Yahuwah your Abba, has promised you in the land that flows with milk and honey. Shema Yasharal, Yahuwah our power, Yahuwah is Akkad. Hear, O Yasharal, Yahuwah our supreme one, Yahuwah is Akkad. And you shall have Yahuwah your supreme one with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words which I command you this yom shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your bed, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. To fall to what? Bind to the mind. Give the Torah access to your mind, that place of processing, that place that the enemy is always trying to raise havoc, that place where the enemy is trying to set up shop, that place that you send, that sends forth the different, that's the command center that sends out all the commands to your body. And if that stops functioning right, it's just like a motor in a car. A car will not function and it will not run. And so it is important that we give Torah access to our mind so that we will remain a fit people, fit to do the will of the Yahweh. And it is so.
And it is so.
And you shall write them upon the posts of your bed and on your gates, and it shall be when Yahuwah your power shall have brought you into the land which he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Yaakov, to give you great cities which you did not build, houses full of all great things which you filled not, wells dug which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant. When you shall have eaten and be full, then beware lest you forget Yahuwah, which brought you forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, from the bed of slavery. You shall fear Yahuwah your power, and serve him, and shall swear by his name. You shall not go after other power, the power of the people which are round about you. For Yahuwah your power is a jealous power among you, lest the anger of Yahuwah your power be kindled against you, and he destroy you from off the face of the earth. And you shall not tempt Yahuwah your power as you tempted him in Massa. You shall diligently keep the commandments of Yahuwah your power and his testimonies and his statutes which he has commanded you. And you shall do which is right in the sight of Yahuwah, that it may be well with you, that you may go in and possess the great land which Yahuwah swore to your fathers. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Now let us turn our attention to Yahush the son of Nun, chapter 1, verses 7 and 8. Chapter 1, verse 7 and 8. We're going to read verse 7 and then we're going to confess verse 8. Verse 7 says, only be you strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the Torah which Moshe my servant commanded you. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. Verse 8, as I have tailored it to fit our time of confession. Repeat with me. I will not let this scroll of the Torah depart out of my mouth. But I shall meditate in it. Yom and Layla. That I may observe to do. According to all that is written in it. For then I shall make my way prosperous. And then I shall act wisely. And look at your neighbor, tell your neighbor, you shall act wisely. And you shall act wisely. Look at your other neighbor, tell your other neighbor, you shall act wisely, and you shall act wisely. Take your hand, place it over your heart, and say, Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
I shall act wisely.
I shall act wisely.
Come on, Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
I shall act wisely.
I shall act
Come
wisely.
on, Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
I shall act wisely.
I shall act wisely.
I am determined
I am determined
to act wisely.
to act wisely.
I am determined
I am determined
to act wisely.
to act wisely.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. It is important that we act wisely and not as fools, but act wisely. And watch this, redeeming the time and doing what is important for us as a people to do, so that we may show forth the praises and show forth the wisdom of the Abba. And it is so.
And it is so.
We appreciate the Abba for all that he's doing, all that he's yet going to do. Tehillim 1:1, Baruch is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the unrighteous, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the instructions of the Abba, and he doth meditate upon it, and it is so.
And it is so.
Hebrews 11:6, but without belief it is impossible to please him, for he that cometh to Yahuwah must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him, and it is so.
And it is so.
Mishlei 15:8, the sacrifices of the wicked is an abomination, hateful and exceedingly offensive unto you, Abba Yahuwah. But the prayer of the upright, it is his delight. Do you not know he delights in hearing from us?
Yes.
And not just in times when it is bad. And it is so.
And it is so.
Micah 3:8, but truly I am full of power by the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuwah, and of judgment and of might, to declare unto Yaakov his transgression, and to Yashua his sin. Ayah 33:4, the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuwah hath made me, and the breath of the Almighty hath given me life. Somebody say he's a life giver.
He's a life giver.
Say it again, he's a life giver.
He's a life giver.
Yes, he is. He is a life giver. And we reside in that life. Tehillim 34:15, the eyes of Yahuwah are upon the upright, and his ears are open unto our cry. The upright cry unto Abba Yahuwah, and he heareth, and he gives us the desires of our hearts, or he grants us the petition of our hearts, and it is so.
And it is so.
He delivers us out of all our troubles, and it is so.
And it is so.
Yehukin and Aleph, chapter 5. Very important. I always read this. Why? Because it is important that we understand the establishing of our belief in the Mashiach is so important that we understand that without the Mashiach, we will never be able to move forward. It is very important that we understand that the Mashiach is here to bring us deliverance. The Mashiach is here to show us how we are to live. And in the time we live in, just as in the time of Yehukanan, as they had to fight Gnosticism, as they had to fight against those that were constantly pushing and trying to promote the disbelief and to try to discourage people in their belief concerning the Mashiach, it is important for us that we choose our fights wisely, and that we choose how we are going to engage with the enemy, and what it is that we need to constantly be standing and fighting for. And this is the thing that is so important for us to understand, that it is important that we keep our nation, our people encouraged concerning the Mashiach. For many have fallen prey to the lie and to the deception and to the leaven of the Pharisees that would dare to speak against his validity. This is why it is so important that we be reminded on a yom to yom basis about who he is, and the importance of knowing this is where our eternal life comes through and comes from, and that is him. And so it is important that we remember this. And so I want to read this in your hearing, as I always do. Yehukin and Aleph, chapter 5, verses 1 through 15. And it reads, everyone who believes that Yahush is the Mashiach has been born of Yahuwah. And everyone who ahabs the one bringing forth also ahabs the one having been born of him. Meaning we ahab both Yahuwah and Yahush. You can't do one without the other.
That's right.
By this we know that we ahab the children of Yahuwah when we ahab Yahuwah and guard his commands. Do you not know when we guard his commands that this shows the world that we ahab one another? That's important for us to understand. Very important for us to understand. Are y'all hearing me?
Yes.
For this is the ahab for Yahuwah, that we guard his commands, and his commands are not difficult. Because everyone having been begotten of Yahuwah overcomes the world. And this is the overcoming that has overcome the world. Our what? Our belief. Our belief in who and what? Our belief that Yahushua is the Mashiach and he came to satisfy the debt. He came to do what the animals could not do. And this is why it is important that we never allow our belief to be shaken concerning who he is and concerning his position in our lives.
That's right.
And it is so. Who is the one who overcomes the world but he who believes that Yahuwah or Yahush is the son of Yahuwah? This is the one that came by water and blood. Yahush Mashiach. Not only by water, but by water and blood. And it is the Ruach who bears witness, because the Ruach is the truth. Because there are three who bear witness, the Ruach and the water and the blood. And the three are in agreement. These three are in agreement. And except we accept their agreement in our lives, we will constantly be on the outside looking in. And I don't know about you, I looked in long enough from the outside, and I refuse to be pushed out of that way again. And so it is important that we understand these things. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
And it is so.
It
The
is
one
so.
who believes in the Son of Yahuwah has the witness in himself. The one who does not believe Yahuwah has made him a liar, because he has not believed the witness that Yahuwah has given concerning his Son. And this is the witness that Yahuwah has given us concerning eternal life. And this life is in his Son. He who possesses the Son possesses life. He who does not possess the Son of Yahuwah does not possess life. That means for everyone that denounces Abba Yahuwah's son, Yahush the Mashiach, that means you do not have life.
That's right.
So it's important that when we sit down to study and sit down to listen, regardless if we're going into the first covenant and riding on to the covenant that we're in now, it is important that we connect to and bridge that gap, so that we can keep that what we've received in the beginning, and that's eternal life. So this is to encourage those that are debating and even those that are living in this life, not to allow ourselves to be caught up and tricked by the enemy to give up what Abba Yahuwah has given unto us concerning eternal life. And it is so.
And it is so.
I have written this to you who believe in the name of the Son of Yahuwah, so that you know that you possess everlasting life. And so that you believe in the name of the Son of Yahuwah. And this is the boldness that we have in him. In who? In Yahush, our Mashiach. That if we ask whatever according to his desire, he hears us. And if we know that he hears us, meaning Yahuwah, whatever we ask, we know that we have the petitions that we have asked of him. First of all, we have to understand that Yahush is the mediator. And nothing will go to the Abba except through him. He's just like the long distance carrier. Without the access, we have no legal way to the Abba. If you try to go any other way, you are what? You are a thief, and you come as a robber. I don't know about you. I'm not trying to hijack my way in. I'm trying to go in the right way. And it is so.
And it is so.
Because you can't go in any other way. Any other way, you won't be accepted in. And so it is important that we understand that. And at this time, we're going to do our affirmations and then the declaration. Why is it important that we do these things? Because it is my responsibility and my job to remind you of the things that are important and the things to focus on. I know we have a lot of things. We have a lot of people out there, and I know we all take up a cause to inform, and I commend those. There are those out there that I commend you. My kudos to you. My hats off to you, because you continually keep those of us informed about areas that we may not be that knowledgeable about, and you're able to get information to inform us. But there are those of us that's not our area. And if that's not your area of expertise, then you need to find where it is. And if you don't have an area of expertise, then that means you need to sit and listen. So it's important that we understand how to go in. And so it is important that we as a people, above all, that everything we do, that the central goal and the main goal be to connect us and to cause us to be a nation of people, and not individuals that make up a nation, or a nation of individuals, but we be individuals that make up the nation and become one voice, one purpose, and one motivation. This is important unto us as a people. And I know where we are now, as we're on the brink and on the break of so many things. There are so many great things that are before us. And at the same time, there's always a warning on the wind for us as a people. So we need never ever get to a place where we are so comfortable with the way things are. You have to understand, we do not have a monopoly on the Abba. Neither do we have a monopoly on his son, the Mashiach. But what we do know is that he's given us his instructions, and we need to follow them. We need to perfect them. I'm reminded that we're getting ready to do our affirmation, then our declaration, and then we're going to move into our study. But I'm reminded of those that study martial arts, and I'm reminded of how they go through different things. If anyone has seen the movie, it's Ninja, right?
Ninja Assassin.
Ninja Assassin. One of my favorite, and I think was the best ever. I think that was the best ninja movie that I had ever seen. He had to get to a place to where he could perfect all his senses. That if he ever became blind, he would be able to use his sense of smell, his sense of hearing, his sense of touch. It is a time that we have to have this so perfected in our lives that even if nothing is before us, we still need to be able to navigate through this life with our hearts, because we know our hearts are so intertwined and so wrapped up in his instructions that no matter what, we're not going to stray from it, because we understand it's our life. Without the Torah, what do we have? What do we have? We have nothing without his instructions. And so it is important that we become like that one that says, I'm going to be one with his instructions, and his instructions are going to be one with me. Why? Because he is his instructions. Yahushua is his instructions made flesh, dwelling in our lives, teaching us and showing us how to live and how to govern our lives so that we will be acceptable unto the Abba. Yes, many of us still have to grow. I admit I'm still growing. None of us have come to that place to where we don't need to be shaped, and that we don't need to cut some things off, add some things. We're all still on the potter's wheel because he's still perfecting us and making us. And so it is important that we maintain in that place and let nothing shake us and let nothing deter us or take us from that place. And it is so.
And it is so.
As we prepare, repeat with me as we say our affirmations. I purpose to develop my Ruach.
I purpose to develop my Ruach.
I purpose to walk in the light of Torah.
I purpose to walk in the light of Torah.
I am Ibra.
I am Hebrew.
I am born again.
I am born again.
I am Ibra.
I am Hebrew.
I have the life and nature
I have the life and nature
of Yahuwah in my Ruach.
of Yahuwah in my Ruach.
That life is the Torah of Yasharal.
That life is the Torah of Yasharal.
I purpose to walk in
I purpose to walk in
the Torah of life.
the Torah of life.
Yahuwah's Torah,
Yahuwah's Torah.
Yahush, is in me.
Is in me.
Yahuwah's knowledge
Yahuwah's knowledge
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's ahab
Yahuwah's ahab
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's power
Yahuwah's power
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's wisdom
Yahuwah's wisdom
is in me.
is in me.
He is teaching me.
He is teaching me.
He is leading me.
He is leading.
I am a child of Yahuwah.
I am a child of Yahuwah.
The Ruach
The Ruach
HaKodesh
HaKodesh
of Yahuwah
of Yahuwah
in me is leading me.
in me is leading me.
I'll follow her leading.
I'll follow her leading.
I'll walk in the Torah.
I'll walk in the Torah.
Yahush,
Yahush,
our Mashiach.
our Mashiach.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Our declaration, as the Abba has given me, to decree and to declare in the atmosphere. Repeat with me. Abba Yahuwah,
I'm Yahuwah.
in the name of Yahush,
In the name of Yahush,
our Mashiach,
our Mashiach.
we subdue ignorance
We subdue ignorance
with Torah knowledge.
with Torah knowledge.
And through this knowledge
And through this knowledge
of Torah truth,
of Torah truth,
we claim healing,
we claim healing.
we claim healing,
We claim healing.
we claim healing,
We claim healing,
shalom,
shalom,
and deliverance.
and deliverance.
We decree
We decree
Torah truth
Torah truth
in the lives
in the lives lives
of your people,
of your people,
our people,
our people,
our people,
our people,
our people,
our people.
Yasharal.
Yasharal.
We unite,
We unite,
not to fight,
not to fight,
not to fight,
not to fight
each other,
each other,
each other,
each other,
but the enemy
but the enemy
of our belief.
of our belief.
And it is so.
And it is so.
You must understand, we unite not to fight each other. I don't unite with you to know or to try to find out your weaknesses or your flaws. And you should never try to unite with anybody, whether it's me or anybody else, just to see where you can find an opening or a crack in our armor. But if you unite, it ought to be we unite because we understand without one another, we cannot make it. We need one another. And in knowing this, if you see that there is an opening, then it's your responsibility to inform me so that I can cover it. And then not only that, we have no back armor. So that means I have to cover your back and you must cover mine. I don't hear y'all.
That's right.
It's important that we understand that. Why? Because you must understand nobody that's on the battlefield runs. We never run from a fight. We never run from a battle. But we always stand. Why? Because if we're back to back and shoulder to shoulder, there is no way that the enemy can get in and breach. No way the enemy can cause me any harm to me or from my back if you have my back. If the enemy gets me, it's because you moved or it's because you stabbed me in the back.
That's right.
And it should never be said that we have stabbed one another in the back. It should always be, man, they fought and they protected one another's back. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
At this time, we're going to seal our time of praise, worship, and prayer. And we're going to seal it with the writings. Let us bow before our King as we recite this before him and before all Shemayim. Repeat this with me. May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the deliberation of my heart
be desirable before you,
be desirable before you,
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the deliberation of my heart
be desirable before you,
be desirable before you,
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
We have just recited Tehillim 19 and 14, and it is so. You may be seated in his presence. Once again, as we're coming to you live from Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom, a Break Belief congregation located in South Carolina. I pray thus far that you are prepared and you're ready to go with us on this quest and on this time that we seek the Abba through his writings to see that what we are talking about is valid and true. We want to turn our attention back to, once again, the bit on chapter 6, and I've been using this as the foundational verse, 6 and 14. And the reason I'm using this verse is because this verse helps us to sum it all up.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Very important for us to understand. Chapter 6, verse 14. And it reads, you shall not go after the power of the people which are round about you. This resonates throughout our history, even to now. Why? Because we as a people have been found guilty of following after the power of other people that are around about us.
Sorry.
Many would say, well, how dare you say? We are still, some of us, committed to wanting to serve the Abba, but yet we still continue to use a title instead of calling him by his name. We still continue to pick up sayings, and we still follow up and behind many of things that I just do not believe, according to the writings, and not just, people say, well, you're in your feelings, that we should pick up and that we should gravitate towards, because if it is not in the writings, then we should truly do the acid test. And if it's not in there, then we should truly deny it and not accept it, reject it. We have far too long, as a people, accepted too many things in too many ways. And by doing so, sometimes I believe we fail to understand and realize that when we do these things, it's a disservice unto us, and it causes us to reject the Abba and watch this and get in trouble with him. And so it's important that we be careful of these things. Once again, in this time, as we are talking along the lines of the Kabbalah, esoteric forces, we're looking at the very things. We're looking at these things that are very important unto us as a people. I want to read something to you. Let's give the Abba praise, please. Kabbalah, esoteric forces. The Kabbalah, tree of life, the mysticism of rabbinic Judaism, 7 chakras, yoking with serpents, Kundulism, a Kundalini yoga, a Kundalini yoga. We want to look at this once again, and I'm going to read this to you. All right. Now let's look at the word esoteric. Esoteric, intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number of people with a specialized knowledge or interest. So it's important that we understand when we talk about the Kabbalah esoteric forces, and we began to look at the word esoteric. It is important that we understand that this has already singled out or sectioned out a certain group of people that will find themselves falling into this. Well, you have to understand, somebody would say, but if it's only to a certain amount of people or only to a special group of people, then what's the problem? Well, the problem comes in is that when this group of people turn right around and begin to tell other people that they need to become a part of this special group or this click, to where now, it's important that you understand that, hey, there's information out there that I believe that you would like, because guess what? Only those that have a knowledge or have a zeal for this is willing or are willing to go after this. This is where the problem comes in, because this is where now we start looking and seeing the leaven of the Pharisees. Now you must understand all these things come about from what? The leaven of the Pharisees. It comes from the traditions of men. And so from that way, we find a whole lot of stuff. And once again, I like to reiterate, this subject is not about a people, but it is about a what? Teaching. It is about a teaching. Even when you talk about a yoke, it is still talking about a teaching, a style, a yoke is what even the Mashiach spoke about. He says, take my yoke upon you and learn of me. He said, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So he's telling us to learn the ways of the Abba. It's not grievous. And so you must understand, and that's in Matthew 11:29 and 30. It's important that we understand that the Kabbalist teacher's yoke or teachings allow his student access to a higher level of interpretations through so-called secret codes. This is the whole reason why the Abba put this teaching on my heart to bring forward, because we need, as a people, to understand there is no so-called secret codes. This is why it is important that even when people run and try to buy things like the Sefer, I know people are not going to like what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. Why? Because it makes people believe that because you are able to have it, not all people that buy it have that mentality, but you have to understand the concept of this is that you're getting something that nobody else can get. One, it's a possibility that could be true because it's so expensive. Then two, it is because people are understanding there are things that are put in it that many people cannot digest because they don't understand that. And I believe the reason being is because the Abba does not want us to understand many of things that have been placed in there. Are you following me?
Yes.
So it's important that we understand this. Now, you have to understand also when we talk about rabbinical Judaism. What is rabbinical Judaism? Understanding that rabbinical, let me slow down. Rabbinical Judaism is a teaching or a way that comes from the fathers. The question is asked, what is the leaven or yeast of the Pharisees? Rabbinic Judaism, the tradition of the fathers. So when you begin to understand that rabbinic Judaism is a teaching, it is a concept that was birthed out of the fathers, not just their ignorance, but out of their sheer will to be disobedient and follow after other ways, then you begin to understand Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 14. Very important for us to understand. Now, you have to understand, where did the idea of a rabbi come from? Well, it is a guide to reach fulfillment, or guru came from the culture of Hinduism. This reached the Middle East about the 2nd century BCE. It came from India by way of the trade route known as the Silk Road, yoking with forces to achieve higher chakra levels and 4 levels of interpretation, both originated from Hinduism. Moshe, Daniel, and all other prophets never mentioned the rabbi. So it's important that we understand these concepts and where they are found. The term rabbi is not found in the Tanakh. And this is why when we read in the writings where Yahushua said, call no one rabbi, it is because you have to understand rabbi means exalted one. That's important for us to understand. He never spoke against people being called more or mora. He never said that. But he did say that. Why? Because you have to understand the concept at that time and why people were doing what they were doing. Once again, that term is not found in the writings or in the Tanakh. Gnosticism. What is Gnosticism? Knowledge. It's considered vital to enable one to reach awareness or perfection. Now, understand, you have to understand, this is outside of the Torah. This is not talking about being steeped and engulfed into Torah teaching. This is talking about, once again, awareness and perfection in what? Rabbinical Judaism. Now, the Eastern philosophy of Hinduism teaches a method or path, dharma, path of righteousness that leads a person out of the karmic cycle of reincarnation into nirvana, into nothingness. So you have to be careful of the philosophies and the philosophers that you listen to. This goal of oblivion is the essence of Eastern philosophy. And the transcendental state is represented by the sky blue skin of their many deities. This is why when you see their deities, you see their blue color. You see the color of their skin being blue. Whenever you see something blue and it's on the floor, that means it's what? It's dead. It's dead. It's not alive. It's dead. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
And once again, these are the traditions of the fathers. So I wanted to reiterate and just kind of hit on that for a moment as it brings us up to where we are on this layla. We want to look at Ezekiel chapter 8, and it describes the mixture of Babel's zodiac animal figures on the inside walls of Yahuwah's temple. Why are we taking up from here? Because the last thing we spoke on last Yom Kamishi was this wise. There is no mention in the inspired word of Yahuwah about a Zohar. Now you have to understand this is where many of the fathers got their instructions and got their way of life from the Zohar. And so when you understand what the Zohar is, the Zohar basically is a knowledge, but it is not the precepts that the Abba has given us as a people. Are y'all following?
Yes.
So once again, the Torah of Moshe, he commanded unto all of Yasharal. There was no Zohar ever found in it, but the Zohar once again was established by. Let me find his name. Those who follow the teachings of the fathers embodied in the Zohar and Talmud withheld the name of Yahuwah, the key of knowledge. Therefore, the Zohar and the Talmud have not only held them back, but also all those under the influence of men teaching from them. The name is the stone the builders rejected. Now watch what it said. All those under the influence of men teaching from them are being what? Held back. Why? Because whenever you teach the traditions of the Father and where they get it from the Zohar, now this is where our people are being held back, and really we find ourselves not being able to go forward. I want to find the man's name. Once again, what his name was, so that you can see. I'm going to find his name so that you can see to him. Now, the Zohar and Talmud do not exist at the time. Yahush warned his Natsanim of the yeast or leaven of the Pharisees. The yeast he spoke of was the traditions of the fathers, the oral teachings passed from rabbi guru to student considered to be the secret interpretations. The leaven is rabbinic Judaism. Those who follow the teachings of the fathers embodied in the Zohar and Talmud withheld the name or the knowledge of Yahuwah. Now, once again, I wanted to see if I could locate the man's name to show you who he was. Once again, in following who began to talk about the Zohar. Okay, the term Zohar means splendor, nirvana, enlightenment, connecting, yoking to forces, energies. The four levels of interpretation, Dhamma, Rabbi, Guru, and much more indicate there is a direct correlation between Kabbalah and karmic traditions of Hinduism by means of a methodical process of learning, aka Gnosticism. AKA Gnosticism. I'm trying to find his name. Once again, just give me a few moments to locate his name so that I can show you once again where they received their precepts from and how these precepts were passed down unto many. Okay, Zohar means splendor and first appeared in Spain in the 13th century, published by Moses de Leon. Interest in it exploded during the 16th century through Rav Isaac Luria. He promoted the Zohar, echoing Leon's claim that the thoughts were based on the writings of a first century rabbi, Shimon Bar Yochai, under the inspiration of Eliyahu. Focusing on mystical concepts, Kabbalah reached its height in the later Middle Ages among the Hasidim. It involves esoteric, secret, ciphers, codes, and approach to scripture directly condemned by Yahush in Luke chapter 8. And we read that, and if you read Luke chapter 8, Yahush came against that style of teaching. Kabbalah has evolved into new forms among Christians, New Agers, and occultists. So once again, to bring us up to where we are now, so it won't seem like, okay, what is going on here? It is important to understand that this is why Yahuwah told Moshe to tell the children of Yasharal in chapter 6 of Devarim, verse 14, you shall not go after the power of the people which are round about you. Why? Because he understood that if our people began to follow under or follow after the powers, then they would eventually begin to follow in their precepts and began to follow in their lifestyles. And this is why it is so important that we understand that we cannot coin, we cannot paraphrase, and we cannot pick up everything we hear other melanated people saying.
Right.
Especially when it has no foundation in the writings. This is so important for us to understand. Now, we're going to look at chapter 8, because chapter 8 describes the mixture of Babel's zodiac animal figures on the inside wall of Yahuwah's temple. Why are we talking about this? Once again, it's important that we understand that the Torah of Moshe my servant, which he commanded to the children of Yasharal in Horeb, his laws and his right rulings. And see, he said, I am sending you Eliyahu, the prophet, before the coming of the great and awesome Yom of Yahuwah. And he shall turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with utter destruction. Malachi 4:4-6. There is no mention in the inspired word of Yahuwah about a Zohar, a Talmud, or levels of interpretation. Claims that Moshe transmitted oral teachings later perceived as secrets are plainly untrue. And so you have to understand, when you start getting a hold of this type of information, where people now say, well, it's a private interpretation, or where if you have this, then you have something nobody else has. And that this is what Moshe did on the sideline. That's a lie. So we cannot accept that as a truth. Daniel had no need for a Zohar. And that's a great thing, because it was not coming for another 1900 years. So this was 1900 years after the establishment of these things. And remember, Yahu said, and Matthew 5:17, he said, think not that I've come to do away with the law, speaking it, then we must understand who was trying to bring about this mixture and trying to bring about this to synchronize it with truth. This is why it's important. Like I say, we cannot synchronize and try to bring everything into oneness under the instructions of the Abba, because it does not work. Right. Very important. We can't do that. All right. Now let's look at chapter 8, which is going to describe the mixture of Babel's zodiac animal figures on the inside walls of Yahuwah's temple. If we are his temple now, then we have no business dillying and dabbling in these very things. Chapter 8 has 18 verses, and we're going to read each one of them, because I want us to understand what's taking place here as the prophet is being shown that what is going on. All right, let's start at verse 1, chapter 8, and let's read 9 verses.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Ezekiel chapter 8, beginning at verse 1. Coming from the NIV. In the 6th year, in the 6th Yom, on the 5th day, while I was sitting in my house, and the elders of Yehudah were sitting before me, the hand of the sovereign power came upon me there. I looked, and I saw a figure like that of a man. From what appeared to be his waist down, he was like fire. And from there of his appearance was as bright as glowing metal. He stretched out what looked like a hand and took me by the hair of my head. The Spirit lifted me up between earth and Shemayim, and in visions of Yahuwah he took me to Yerushalayim, to the entrance to the north gate of the inner court, where the idol that provokes to jealousy stood. And there before me was the esteem of Yahuwah of Yasharal, as in the vision I had seen in the plain. Then he said to me, Son of man, look toward the north. So I looked, and in the entrance north of the gate of the altar, I saw this idol of jealousy. And he said to me, Son of man, do you see what they are doing? The utterly detestable things the house of Yasharal is doing here, things that will drive me far from my sanctuary. But you will see things that are even more detestable. Then he brought me to the entrance to the court. I looked, and I saw a hole in the wall. He said to me, Son of man, now dig into the wall. So I dug into the wall and saw a doorway there. And he said to me, Go in and see the wicked and detestable things they are doing here. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, once again, we see what is taking place here. Now, look at what the Abba is saying unto Ezekiel. He said, look at the things. Now, look at what he said in verse 6. And he said to me, Son of man, do you see what they are doing? The great abominations with an S, which the house of Yasharal are doing here, driving me away from my set apart place. And you are to see, and you are to see still greater abominations. Now you must understand, we are the children of Yasharal. And because we are the children of Yasharal, and he dwells on the inside of us, we are that temple. We are not supposed to have all these things going on in our lives. We are not supposed to have things written all on the inside of us. In other words, we are not supposed to be representing anything but the Torah.
Right.
Anything outside of the Torah is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it a problem? Because now we drive out the Abba. And so we don't want to be doing any and everything. We don't want our temple defiled because we are saying any and everything. We are just allowing any and everything to resonate and to live on the inside. Now look what he said that stood at the entrance in verse 5. He said to me, Son of man, please lift your eyes toward the north. And I lifted my eyes northward, and north of the altar gate, I saw this image of jealousy in the entrance. We still, as a people, are dealing with jealousy.
Right.
We won't promote one another. Then when we do promote one another, it's always got to be something behind it. It's always got to be something behind it. Then we got so much stuff going on. It's not funny. You got people in rat race. You got people competing against one another. You got so much going on that it's not funny. And you must understand, he's not talking about the entrance of a building. He's talking about the entrance of your heart, the entrance of your ruach.
That's right.
What is the gatekeeper of your life? What is standing there in your life? It's important that we understand these things.
That's right.
Now look what he said in verse 7. Then he brought me to the door at the court. And I looked and saw a hole in the wall. And he said to me, Son of man, please dig into the wall. And when I dug into the wall, I saw a door. And he said to me, go in and see the evil abominations which they are doing there. And I went in and looked and saw all kinds of creeping creatures, abominable beasts, and all the idols of the house of Yasharal carved all around on the walls, engravings of the constellations, zodiac or zoo. For those that be dilly-dabbing in the zodiac, knowing, well, I was born in the month of this month, and I was born in this month, and I was born in that month. And when you go and you start reading, you start looking up those things, and you start believing that stuff is being written in your heart. That stuff is being written in your ruach. And it's an abomination unto the Abba, because now it's being carved and it's being accepted. Something I know. Ain't nobody gonna tell me this. Now you have to understand once again the fallacy and the abomination that these things bring about, because instead of us praying and asking the Abba to change certain things and asking him according to the writings, when he tells us in the writings, he said if we acknowledge him in all our ways, he'll do what? Direct our path. Then he said the footsteps of an upright man are ordered by who? Are ordered by him.
That's right.
So there is no need for us to be trying to go in. And basically, you have to understand, when you read the zodiac is just like somebody reading your palm. Because you are using that as a means to determine what's going to happen to you and what is your life going to be, instead of determining it based upon his instructions, where he told us that if we live right and if we do right, he would not withhold no great thing from us.
Right.
This is important. Are y'all following me?
Yes.
All right. Now let's read on. Let's read verse 11.
To 19.
Yes.
"70 elders from the house of Yasharal were standing before them, with Jazaniah, son of Shaphan, standing among them. Each had a fire pan in his hand, and a fragrant cloud of incense was rising up. Then he said to me, Son of man, do you see what the elders of the house of Yasharal are doing in the darkness, each at the shrine of his idol? For they are saying, the power does not see us. Yahuwah has abandoned land. Again he said to me, you will even see more detestable things which they are committing. So he brought me to the entrance of the north gate of Yahuwah's house, and I saw women sitting there weeping for Tammuz. And he said to me, do you see this, son of man? You will see even more detestable things than these. So he brought me to the inner court of Yahuwah's house, and there were about 25 men at the entrance of Yahuwah's temple, between the portico and the altar, with their back to the temple and their faces turned to the east. They were bound to the east in worship of the sun. And he said to me, do you see this, son of man? It is not enough for the house of Yehudah to commit the detestable things they are practicing here, that they must also fill the land with violence and repeatedly provoke me to anger, even putting the branch to their nose. Therefore, I will respond with wrath. I will not show pity or spare them. Though they cry out in my ears with a loud voice, I will not listen to them. And it is so.
And it is so. Very important for us to look at what is taking place. And facing them stood 70 men of the elders of the house of Yashral. In their midst stood Yazan Yahu, son of Shaphan. Each one had a censer in his hand, and a thick cloud of incense went up. And he said to me, Son of man, have you seen what the elders of the house of Yashral are doing in the dark, each one in the room of his idols? For they say, Yahuwah does not see us. Yahuwah has forsaken the land. This is important too for us to understand. Why? Because many people in this time are yet promoting and fighting and saying that Yashral, or the place of Jerusalem, Israel, is not our place. It is not the place. There are so many teachings that are denying that our place, our homeland, is not that place. And so it is important that we understand that when a people forsake a place or forsake a thing, what are the next actions that follow? So now here are these things that are taking place. These things where they are doing things in the dark and they're saying, Abba Yahuwah doesn't see us. Look at it. How many things are going on and how you see so much taking place. Things that happen, and when you look, and I'm not talking about all elders, so please don't quote me when I say this, but how some folks sit back and let things take place and won't open their mouths to try to bring any kind of correction. You have to understand we're going to be held accountable of a many of things. Are you following me?
Yes.
When you put yourself in a position, or Yahuwah has put you in a position as a watchman or as a leader, it is important that there are times that you get your feet wet. Somebody say, what you mean get my feet wet? I understand many of us do not, because I do not like to have to be in situations where I know that all it can turn to is a whole lot of arguing, a whole lot of bickering, and a whole lot of debating. But there are times that you need to open your mouth and not voice your opinion, but put the word out on it.
That's right.
Especially when you see it's our people. A situation arose on this young, and it was dealing with the place Target. And what ended up happening was in Target, no, I don't shop at Target, period. Because Target, they support abortion. And not only that, they support on a large scale homosexuality. And there was a post that was put up, and this post was put up. And in this post, it showed that a whole section of children's clothing was dedicated to homosexuality, the rainbow, wearing it with pride. Well, the problem comes about that, no. It comes about that here, when we start talking about pride, how is it that people can feel proud because of their sexual preference? You have to understand, homosexuality and them having a status and having a voice, it is because we are